Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics in the Cross, the greatest YouTubers you've never heard of, and we are back with another Let's Talk Comics, and myself and Nitro are sitting down with a very special guest today as we are talking with comic book writer and creator Louis Southard. And for anyone that's new to the channel, you might not know, Louis is actually pretty much a frequent flyer here on the show at this point. Louis was our first ever comic creator guest that we had on the show way back when we started our podcast that used to run on a weekly basis back in 2020. So it is very fitting that we're able to get him back on the show today. I've been looking forward to this conversation. Louis, thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us since it's basically early hours of the morning for you to record this with us. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I've chugged my Red Bull. I
Nice.
actually have a little bit left. So I'm excited.
That's for your second wind when we start to get into some of our rabbit holes and rabbit trails and rants that we go on. That'll get you through.
It's the tangent that will energize me, I think.
It always does, but when you get the three of us on a show, we always tend to go into some good tangents.
It's like we all like to talk or something. I don't know what that's about.
Apparently, you know. But for those watching on YouTube, I will put a card up in the corner here. Please go and click it and check it out. And we actually have a playlist here on YouTube of all the previous times that Louis has appeared. Most of them interviewing on various comics that he has created, and once when I think he is, to date, the only comic creator that we've had that has co-hosted the podcast with me when he and I talked Umbrella Academy Season 2 back in the day. Which feels like a lifetime ago now, but I was putting that playlist together and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Oh, we did that. And he totally showed me up by doing a number 5 cosplay for the episode and totally showed me up that day. But yeah, if you want to go and catch a lot of our tangents and a lot of the stuff we've talked to Louis about, go and check out that playlist. But we're very excited because we get to talk to you about something pretty special today. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first major established IP that you've really done some sort of work on like this. A lot of the stuff you've done prior has all been creator owned and your own work and different things, but this is you're working on something that is linked to Flash Gordon, a majorly established IP, and I think this is the first time for that.
You'd be 100% correct. Everything before has been a creator-owned book, starting with Villain Seeking Hero to Midnight Western Theater. Then we got The Blackout Bombshell, and the last thing was Comics Are Dying, the comic. And then today, we're talking all about Flash Gordon Quarterly, which is my first work-for-hire book for any publisher. And I'm very proud to say that. I'm very proud to have the opportunity to do that. And it's really all thanks to the fine people at Mad Cave Studios and to editor Chas Pangburn for taking me under his wing. But I'm very proud. I'm very excited. And I'm very happy with what we made. So thank you guys for having me back on. It's been a long time since I've been on. And it's nice to see the journey that we've all been on, and it's just all really cool.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see you jumping into this, because obviously just recently we really started properly reviewing comics that were coming out, and then we kind of got to start doing that just before Mad Cave launched this whole flourish into the Flash Gordon universe that they have been able to do. I mean, we've gotten the mainline Flash Gordon series, we've got Defenders of the Earth coming out, there's now Flash Gordon Quarterly, so they've gone all in with Mad Cave for Flash Gordon stuff. And how did it come about for you to get connected with them and to get involved in this? And yeah, let's start with that, because I want to get into the specifics of your story, because yours is one of 3 stories in Flash Gordon Quarterly. It's an anthology comic. But how did you get involved in this? And maybe a little bit of your history with Flash Gordon, if there's any. Were you a fan? Did you know about it? Did you enjoy the comics? Did you have no clue going into this? Just a little bit of a background for everyone.
Okay, I'll start with the more fun one, aside from the shop talk. So with Flash Gordon, my history with it kind of starts with Buck Rogers. which is the progenitor of Flash Gordon. Not because I was a fan of that, but I was a fan of Star Wars, which is the descendant of Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
And whenever I was watching anything Star Wars related, my dad, ever the comedian, would come in and be like, "What are you watching, Buck Rogers?" And then after that, that's the first time I was exposed to even that. And then after that, I watched the Duck Dodgers cartoon show, which is a whole spoof on Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon. And then when I was a teenager, the first real exposure was, unfortunately, the Ted movie, where Mark Wahlberg teams up with actor Sam Jones, and they just reminisce on the Flash Gordon movie from the 80s, which I've still not seen, and I feel like I should remedy that pretty soon. But that was kind of it. So I hate to say this, but I'm quite possibly the worst person to write a Flash Gordon story, because I'm not a tremendous fan, but I am a fan of its significance in comic book history, like everything Alex Raymond did, and also just like it spawning as the result of a feud between Hearst and those making the Buck Rogers strip. Like, I'm more interested in the real life angle, but in reference to Mad Cave and how I got involved, I've been speaking to Mad Cave for a hot second. I'd been on the radar of one editor there, and he had recommended me to the licensing editor, who is Chaz Pangburn, the mastermind behind the Flash Gordon renaissance right now, I'll say. And we were talking about a completely different IP, and which I can't talk about, and hopefully one day real soon I will be able to talk about, but can't mention it. So he was like, like, we want you for that, but maybe we can get you onto something else. And I'm like, oh, of course, I'd love to do something else. And it's like, what do you got? And he sent 2 different licenses, and I was like, I have no idea what those are. I can't do them. And then he was like, well, we do have this super secret third option. And I was like, okay, what's that? And then he said Flash Gordon. I'm like, I'll do it, because I knew what it was. I love sci-fi. I've been hungry to do a sci-fi book. So I said, I'll do that. And he told me about the Quarterly, which is, I guess we could talk about what the Quarterly is. It's an anthology book connected to the main book, headed by Jeremy Adams, writer of, I believe, Green Lantern and Flash over at DC. With his new relaunch, the Quarterly is a companion book featuring an in-universe storyline connected to a supporting character, and then what they're calling Flash Fiction, which basically expands the entire and creates even the Flash Gordon multiverse.
Okay.
So with this book, me and artist Nuno Plati, as well as the other Flash Fiction team, Jordan Thomas and Mark Russell Olson, we have created essentially the Earth 2 and the Earth 3 of the Flash Gordon multiverse.
Got it.
Which is, I think, very cool. So yeah, Chaz asked me if I wanted to participate in that. So I sent him, we had a meeting, and then I sent him a whole list of ideas. In an interview I did recently, I admitted that one of them was a funny animal universe with Mink the Merciless and Princess Orca, and just stuff like that.
Nice.
But that didn't get approved. And I was like, oh man, I'm really keen on doing sci-fi. I'm so excited. I've been stuck doing Westerns for the better part of my career. I can't wait to do something different. And then he looked at the list, and then he's like, you really love doing Westerns. How about you do a Wild West version of Flash Gordon? And I'd be like, I'd love to.
See, that was one of the big ones. That was one of the big ones I was going to ask you about. I'm like, so do you feel like you're being typecast as a Western writer now, because you had Midnight Westerns Theatre, and now you've got basically a Flash Gordon Western? We're starting to build up quite a Western theme of your comic archives here in your comic catalog.
I feel as long as the Wild West keeps me employed, I'll load up my 6-shooter any day of the week. I think no, I like it. I certainly don't mind it. I did love writing Midnight Western Theater. I didn't love who I was writing it for, but I definitely still love that book and hope to continue the series one day. But with this, it is more of a sci-fi western. I am assuming you guys have both read it. With artist Nuno Platti, we basically wanted it to be like, we are doing western aesthetics, but it's still within like that kind of alien world mentality, which kind of allows us to do lots of different ideas and concepts if we do get to continue this. But we tried to make sure we teased it a bit with the short story. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I was happy to do it. I really do like it. I enjoy it. And yeah, so I wrote that for them. I wrote the script in like in a week. No, that's a lie. I wrote it in a weekend because I was so excited. And I sent it to them, and I'm proud to say it got immediately passed through the editor and the publisher and the license holders. Like, they all liked it.
Nice.
So I was very pleased with that. And then after that, it was all about making it. So yeah, that's the story of how this came to be.
I'm kind of interested in the process. Like, how does it work submitting ideas for a pre-established IP like Flash Gordon? Like, do they, I mean, obviously they had you like, we're going to be doing a Western type theme, but was there any other guidance other than that?
There were notes, because at the end of the day, this is kind of good firsthand experience. Everything I'd done before, I was essentially the boss, right? I had ideas and I wanted to make them happen with all my comic books. This is the first time I've played with somebody else's toys. And with that, you kind of have to learn the rules of doing so. Like, don't break them, or don't break them so much that you can never fix them again. And it being a company, King Features is the parent company of Flash Gordon, and they had very specific notes of what they want to do with this relaunch to separate it from some of the previous relaunches, as well as like, this is the Bible as to how we want these characters to be portrayed. So with it, I think the right thing to do is always to not really poke the bear, like, don't be like, I don't know. I can't even come up with an example. I don't even want to dare think of one, because I know they're watching this. They don't want me having bad ideas with the characters. But either way, yeah, it's mainly just like, these are the notes, stick with that. But also, as a creator, as a either whether you're a writer or an artist, you also want to make sure you're making a story that you feel happy with. You're not just writing like, you're checking all the boxes and here's what we got to do. I wanted to be like, okay, we're doing this. Let's make it different. One of the quotes I've been using was, if we get to make a whole new universe with Flash, how do you, quote unquote, build a better Flash Gordon?
That's cool.
Or how do you even separate it from the main universe? So with this short story, I made sure to basically wipe away some things that I'm like, if this continues, or if this is what it is, these things are gone, and that's that. So I think that was a very good way to establish it and make it distinct from the main universe. But yeah, no, you basically have to, make everyone happy and make yourself happy. If anything, restrictions force you to get more creative.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely makes sense for it. Like, if there's only certain things you're allowed to do or certain things you have to avoid, it's like, it forces you to start thinking outside the box and forces you to start processing in a different way of like, well, what do we do with this and how do we do it? Especially like, with that almost kind of like open example to you of like going in as like, hey, you're doing Flash Gordon quarterly and you're doing basically an Elseworld story for Flash Gordon.
And
I'm like, that's an open sandbox of stuff. Like you said, you threw a bunch of ideas at them to say like, here's a bunch of stuff we could try, and obviously they picked the Western theme. And it's like, but it's like, is that great idea of like, but you really can, like, it's a Western theme, but like there's still so much you can do with that, and so much you did, even for like, I mean, your stories are fairly short. My stuff's attacking the rest of my room, apparently. Sorry, that threw me for a second there. But like, you've got like, it's a fairly short story within this. It's not like a lengthy piece. It's not like this is an extra expanded issue where you're getting 20 pages for your one story. It's about 8 to 10 pages. It's a short story, but you still manage to tell a really good, concise, set world. And it's a really, it's a good testament to your writing ability to be able to do that and to be able to still pull people in and play within these guidelines that you're given. It's not an easy thing to do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm very happy with the whole team. I'll give them a shout out. Artist Nuno Platti really made the world his own, and he's just an excellent artist. Funnily enough, he was part of the Superior Spider-Man relaunch back in 2013.
Wow.
Oh,
So
really?
I
Was
personally
he?
thought that's like such a cool full circle moment
That is really
to work
cool.
with.
That's awesome.
To work with one of the people that like made the comics that got me into comics. Like that's really neat in a cosmic sense. And then he brought in his pal Joao Lemos, who was the colorist, and he made sure to make it as pulpy and gritty as possible, which is perfect. The perfect vibes.
I love the texture. I was gonna say I love
Yeah.
the texture on the pages. Like it looks like you found it in like a field, with dust on it. It just looks like you can feel
It's
it.
got a very gritty feel to it. Like
Yeah.
everything looks like it's almost a kind of got a sepia tone kind of over the top of it with that coloring. And it really helps set it apart from the other stories in it as well, because the others are both fairly bright and fairly popping colors in it, so it really helps set your story apart, and just in the art as well, which absolutely, it caught my attention right away. That coloring was phenomenal, and the artwork is just stunning.
Yeah, agreed.
I would say flipping through my copy, and I'm not just saying this because I made it, it's just kind of like that bam in your face, like, okay, now something completely different.
Yeah.
Because for the first artist, Pasquale Quilano, I think he did a phenomenal job with the Fall of King Voltan. Like, what a great looking book, or a great looking story. And then with Battle Little Mingo, it's like we're time to do something entirely different.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's like a totally different visual vocabulary going from one story to the other. Even the last one, which is like more pulpy, like noir type, like very chiaroscuro, like very dark darks, very light lights. It's just everything has a unique language, I guess, a visual language, and I think that's really cool how it's set apart.
I think that's a great thing. That's what you want in an anthology. You want to see, especially with comics, if you do have different stories, you would hope to have art that best complements those stories. I think this anthology really pulled it off. I'm not saying that because I helped make it, but as a reader, I think that's what anthologies really should be. That if you are bringing in a bunch of different people, I don't really want to see like a bunch of artists basically doing the same kind of thing or in very, very similar styles. I think with this type of thing or any anthology, you want to see people being a little bit outside the box, because this is the opportunity to do it. Like this is where you can brainstorm a bit and just have fun and do something a bit different. I think another great anthology that's happening right now that some of my good friends are making, like artist Frederick Hornung, is Hello Darkness from Boom Studios.
Yes.
I think that's another one that's really pulling off that very well.
Yeah, it's a great
I'm
horror anthology. Absolutely.
I'm liking that trend in anthologies right now, where they're actually trying to really do something different.
No, absolutely. And I think I said it in my review for Flash Gordon Quarterly as well. Like, just the feel of the book is very different from like the mainline Flash book. And the mainline Flash book keeps that very awesome, epic, sci-fi adventure feel that you're meant to get from Flash Gordon. But every story in this one feels different. And it feels almost like you can feel, I guess the best way to describe it is you can feel the fun You can feel the writers having fun with the stories. You can feel the artists having fun with their designs, their creativity, and the colorists having fun with the coloring. You can feel it within the whole book. It's like in every story avoids the trope of just falling into it's another sci-fi epic and brings something different and brings something to pull the reader in. Even like we talked about the fall of King Vulcan, the first story, it's set in that same epic sci-fi adventure, but it's a heartfelt father and son story.
Yeah.
Amongst the Hawkmen, the King and the Prince. Yours is very much this. Yes.
Oh wait, let me sell it.
Yeah, go for it.
I got this. Let me sell it to the audience. So what I was mentioning the whole creative team. I don't want to leave him out. Letterer Buddy Baudouin, who was the guy I brought in. We've been working since I started making comics together, and the fact that it's like, bam, first work for hire, and you're here with me too. I really love that. It's just such a cool feeling to be like, you and me, we've been sticking together, and here we are.
I'll admit I popped when I seen it was his name as Letterer on this, because obviously I seen his name quite a lot when we reviewed your Comics Are Dying the comic, because it's like 100 artists, and then it's like writer Louis Southard, letterer like Buddy Baudouin, basically for almost the whole entire thing. His name is like amongst that, so to see him getting to join you in this was actually, it did pop me a little bit. I was really excited to see that.
I personally requested for him with the editor Chaz.
That's awesome.
Because I believe in this kind of sentiment of, wherever you can try to get a foot in the door, try to hold it open for as long as you can, and see who you can bring with you. Obviously, you don't want to do too much nepotism, or that's not it. Cronyism, actually, that's what that is. But I really, with some people, it's like, oh, I just love working with you, and I want to keep working. And he's one of those guys where he's not only just a great colleague that I've had for, I think, 6 years now, but he's an honest to goodness friend. And I really like having that kind of support network within this industry, because it being so digital nowadays, you hardly really know anyone. So when you can make a friendship or even a long-lasting professional relationship, I think it's always good to stay loyal and maintain those who've had your back when you were nobody, and then when you're just slightly somebody. So
there's got to be a little bit of like professional shorthand with you guys too, who haven't worked together so long. Yeah, that's really cool.
If you do, well, I also just think he's a really great letterer, which is why, in Comics Are Dying, the comic, some people did the lettering of their individual pages, while with him, I could trust, like, oh, you'll just nail down the style of whatever theme we're going to go with, because that was 100 different kind of styles. But he really pulled it off, and that is an equal showcase of his talents as well. So very excited for that. But anyway, I got off track. So we're selling, or we're telling the people about the Battle of Little Mingo. Dun dun dun. So it's we're in the Wild West. There's a town under siege. Only 2 people are left to defend it against the forces of evil. A posse is firing every bullet they can at them, trying to murder our 2 heroes. They are Sheriff Gordon and Deputy Dale Arden. They must defend the town or die trying. And Flash, he's decided, Dale, you must go. I will save your life, and I will sacrifice my own. And when he goes to do that, who does he encounter? But the leader behind this entire siege, but Governor Ming T. Marcellus. Will the 2 talk it out, or will they both find a fate in the cold oblivion? Read the book and find out.
I do have to say, like, Governor Ming T. Marcellus might be my favorite bit of the whole book. That pun on the name was like absolutely phenomenal. I love it.
I was so happy with that. Writing the script, biggest smile on my face.
I read that when I was reading through the story. I'm like, that's amazing. And it works so well, because it's just a standard regular name, but it 100% fits as a pun off of his name. I love that it works so well. But I think that was a perfect pitch. I think I hear the people going and rushing out the house to go and line outside the comic book stores to pick it up just for the Battle of Little Mingo. And then you even get another 2 stories along with that. So there you go.
I can hear the bags of gold being dropped off on my front stoop as we speak.
There you go. That's it. But it's awesome that you're getting the opportunity for doing the Battle of Little Mingo. It's an amazing opportunity to be part of Flash Gordon Quarterly and the Flash Gordon universe. And as we talked about, Mad Cave is 100% kind of like invested in Flash Gordon. They've got a bunch of different IPs that they've picked up and that they're relaunching, you know. But this seems to be one that they're wholeheartedly, yep, we're going for this one. And they've got phenomenal creators involved in all of it. Is this the end of you working with the Flash Gordon Quarterly stuff and doing some of that? Or will we see a return to the Battle of Little Mingo or some other sort of part of it? Or, you know, obviously you said there's stuff with Mad Cave you can't talk about, but specifically the Flash Gordon at least, like, you know, is this going to be a reoccurring story? Maybe in issue 2 or 3 we return to Little Mingo and see a bit more? Or
I will say, while I can't talk about the other thing, let's stay with Flash.
Absolutely.
Like Tinkerbell, I need your help. So basically, depending on reaction or on reception of quarterly number 1, a few things could happen. We could see a continuation within this universe. We could even see a potential spin-off within this universe. Or perhaps I could even get to do the main universe header, right?
Nice.
So I do have ideas to continue the Wild West universe. I have a story in mind, and it's perfectly set up by this little short story sampler. So if anyone really wants to see this Wild West universe, you know, tweet at Mad Cave, Instagram at Mad Cave, and I need you two to do it as well. I will
Absolutely.
know. You need to post at them. Tell them we want more of this. But this is my little secret between you two and the Comics and the Cross audience. There is a character that I am after in the main universe that I want to write. And it is an obscure Flash Gordon villain from the 1950s named Pyron the Comet Master. And he is a nefarious leader of men. He runs an artificial comet battle station. He has a female henchwoman sidekick and also potential lover named Flamma. And then the best thing is he has a legion of lizard dinosaur men henchmen that serve him and are loyal to the comet. And I have been begging Mad Cave to let me do something with this character. So they know I want to write him. So if you want to tweet at Mad Cave, let Louis write Pyron, hashtag we want Pyron. I would appreciate that to all heck. Because that's my new goal, and that would be my newest dream come true. If I could bring back Pyron to the 21st century.
You know what? That is officially our new goal for Comics and the Cross, is to get Flash Gordon Quarterly, Louis Southard writing a Pyron story. It's going
I'm
forward
tweeting right now.
Yep. Nitro's doing it right now.
Everyone is. Everyone's tweeting it right now as we speak.
If you're watching us right now, if you're listening to us right now, you need to go to Twitter right now, you need to go to Instagram right now, and you need to start posting Louis Southard to write Pyron, the Comet Master. That's the story we want to see him writing for Flash Gordon. 100%.
Hashtag we want Pyron works. Hashtag yearning for Pyron also works. Hashtag Pyron for president. Hashtag absolutely need absolute Pyron.
Absolute Pyron.
all in on Pyron. Just any of those really works.
Anyways, I love the fact it's gone from like, yeah, let's see if we can get a sequel to, you know, the Battle of Little Mingo and keep the Western Universe going, or we're just going to go completely Pyron, all Pyron, everything for Pyron.
I think the people need Pyron. You know, we're living through some trying times. I think the economy's bad.
Yeah, Pyron's what they need.
This is the only way to fix it.
The only way to fix it is we need Pirate on the Comic Master. We need him to come back. It's time. It's time for him for a 21st century update. The people are ready.
They weren't prepared. They weren't. You know what? It was too much too soon in the 1950s. Too many ideas all at once. But now in this new age, it's ready. It's ready.
It's time. It's time for him to
awesome.
emerge again. I'm feeling it.
So like when you get to like a studio like Mad Cave and like kind of get your foot in the door, and I know they wanted you to do a specific like IP, but you get to kind of like sneak peek at other stuff and be like, that looks cool. I would like, just for reference, I would like to do that and that and that and that and that. Just kind of put my name in the hat just for future reference. Are you kind of able to kind of option your name for certain stuff in the chance that you might be able to do that?
I think for me, I'm too narrow-minded. The only thing I've really done now that I'm even remotely part of the Flash Gordon universe is legitimately fight for Pyron. But anything else they're doing, I mean, I'm really fascinated by I think their Dick Tracy book by Alex Segura is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing you have to keep in mind is, at least for me, if I really want to throw my hat into the ring, I really want to be committed to the IP or the idea I have for it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's not just me, it's everybody not fighting, but people. You could potentially be taking someone's job.
Yeah.
And I feel like you should, at least for me, my rule is I really want to commit to something, or I really need to have a good idea. Like with this, despite not knowing a lot about Flash Gordon, doing my research, I'm like, oh, I really can do a lot with this. There's a lot here that's really cool, as well as knowing a lot about the origins and the history. There's something there. And like I said, there were two. They did let me know a lot of the IPs when I had my meeting, because there was also like they let me look at some of the young adult or even like younger readers IPs that they have, and there's some pretty well known IP. But at the end of the day, I'm not really the type of guy or type of creator where it's like, yes, 1,000 opportunities, and now I will spread the Lewis Empire. I really like writing for something if I actually have an idea, because I'm also a firm believer in no half measures. You know, like don't just write it to make something. Write it because I feel like, oh, there's something here, or I have that spark of interest. So yeah, I don't really push too hard, but if there is something like for this, for example, then I will push for it. But yeah, no, nothing else as of yet.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That makes a lot of sense too.
But also the other thing that may or may not happen, I think if that goes through, I will be okay. So yeah, but either way, I'm kind of focused on. They have a great editor named James Emmett. I talk with him a lot, and we are trying to hopefully figure out like a creator-owned thing. I think.
Oh, cool.
Doing more of that would be great. But that's more like finding the right project.
Yeah, I mean, that was something I was going to ask as well, because Mad Cave, we've talked about has these amazing IPs that they're currently working with, but they obviously do a lot of creator-owned stuff as well. Like, we just obviously recently talked with Amit Tischler and Elliot Sperl. They've got a creator-owned book, The Last Warden, that's happening now. That's kind of been your bread and butter so far, has been your creator-owned works. Is there stuff that you're currently working on at the minute? Because, I mean, obviously Flash Gordon Quarterly is now done and finished and is officially released as of today of recording. And obviously this other project you're talking about that might or might not go through isn't fully landed yet and not something that's currently being worked on officially. So, like, So, like, is there creator-owned stuff in the background? Because every time we've talked to you, there's always something going on. You're not the sort of guy that usually sits back and doesn't have the gears turning. Everything we talk to you, your gears are turning with something.
Yeah, I had a question about, yeah, you had a board last time we talked. You had a
Oh,
board on your wall. The idea board. I forgot what you called it specifically, but it was an idea board, and you're like, I can't show you, but I have things planned out for years. I need to know if that's still a thing.
if we were, yeah, no, I had to erase that last time I found it because it just sat in a garage. But I was pretty happy looking at it because everything on the board I had made because it was
That's awesome.
Midnight 2. It was Midnight 2. It was Blackout Bombshell, and I think it was Villain Seeking Hero Volume 3, which I self-published. So those are the ones that I managed to go through. Other than that, I'll answer the other question as well. Independent stuff. I'm talking with one publisher about a sci-fi book that is creator owned. I don't know if that's going to go through. But other than that, I've been one thing I've not really been private about is I've been working on a fantasy comic book graphic novel type thing with this. I think she's a great artist. Her name is Puree, or at least that's her artist handle. I that is a really cool fantasy kind of fairy tale cracked mirror type thing that we've been working very very hard on, and we're hoping to find a home for. But luckily, fortunately, I have the convention circuit coming up, and I have a lot of meetings with a lot of different people. So fingers crossed those go well. But as of right now, the only thing I know that's for sure coming out in the future is the Zoo Comics Are Dying. The comic campaign will be all wrapped up. The books are currently being printed, and they will hopefully be shipped by the end of the year. If not that, then early next year. But I think they said it was like 2 to 3 months to have it fully printed and shipped to HQ, and then after that, they'll all be sent to their respective backers. So I think, yeah, but that's a whole graphic novel. So I think
Yeah.
that's going to be the main thing to look forward to the rest of the year.
Hey there, Comic Clan. Did you know that Comics in the Cross are also on Patreon as well? For as little as just $2 a month, you can get access to all of our content from YouTube early before it drops here. That includes reviews for our comic books, tabletop gaming and video game channels, as well as the Indie Comic Book Club and our Let's Talk Comic interview show. Also, there is exclusive content available just to our Patreon subscribers. That includes watch-alongs, interviews, and a lot of behind-the-scenes information and goings-on in Comics in the Cross. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in checking out, then please go and check out the link for patreon.com/comicsinthecross. And if you do choose to support us and partner with us, then we are super grateful for that. And thank you so much for your kind and generous support. But for now, that's all from me. Let's head on back into your video. Well, let's take a little chance to talk about that actually, since you've mentioned it yourself, because we took a bit of a hiatus from doing podcasts and interviews, we completely missed getting to talk to you about Comics Are Dying, the comic. This freaking insane project you took on. It went, hey, I'm going to do a history of comics and I'm going to hire 100 artists each to add to this project and to put it out. And it's phenomenal. It's absolutely a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant putting together of everything of this, and it really is. You've done your research and everything. Like, it's a proper history of these big moments throughout comics. Where did the inspiration come for doing this? Because obviously that was something you were championing for a while. It took a while to come together. So how did that go about, and how did you go through the process of finding 100 different artists and 100 different art styles as well to put together in this book? Because all the artists are different. Each of them done a page, and every art style is completely different. If you've not had a chance to read it, it's well worth checking out.
I really think that's my magnum opus to date, especially with it's not my favorite read, but on a technical level, very proud of that book, and very proud of how what I accomplished in a considerably short amount of time. But we'll start at the beginning. Inspiration for that, it all boils down to just anger. It was the end of 2023, end of December. I'd just been at my, let's call her my mother-in-law's house. So that's enough to drive me a little nuts. So, and then around this, like on the internet, it's always like the same thing, or it's like it was brewing that kind of like anti-AI, stuff, and I hate AI art and all that. So it's like, okay, more of that. Don't like that. And then it was around the end of the year. There was, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was that terrible cancel pigs trend happening online of people harassing other people about that. And there was one guy in particular who I will not name, but I despise him as a creator. And he was fueling the fires, and he was just like this slimy opportunist. And I got really tired of people just running their mouths and just being like, "This is how we're gonna fix the comic book industry." I know I have all the answers, and I'm giving them away for free. But like, I was just really fed up, and at that point, I was just like, things are feeling a little pessimistic. I am feeling pessimistic. I want to do something that will make me feel good about comics and hopefully make some other people feel good as well. I wanted to do something that wasn't about the doom and gloom and just like, oh, this is an industry that's always falling apart, or this is all worthless or something like that. So I kind of took that sentiment and spun it on its head, hence the name Comics Are Dying, the comic. So I wanted to make a pseudo history book spanning basically the 170 years of basically the Western comic book industry, basically getting like historical events, books, creators, fun facts from the inception of the like first kind of American comic in the 1840s to like the modern day. Each page, there's 100 different pages of main actual history, each told by a different artist. So 100 artists, each centered around a different fact in chronological order. So we do everything from like comic strips to funny animal books to underground comics. There's even a page all about manga. So my real mission was, I want to work with people, I want to work with artists, and I want to highlight some people, or just kind of like get to know people, or just support someone. Like, here's a job, here's the gig, let's do it, let's work together. And that was really great. There are some people that this was their first ever like work. There's some people where this is their like thousands drawing, and I thought that was really cool. It was also about inclusivity and diversity. I really believed in just like hiring the best people I could find, and like it's didn't matter the age, race, gender, sexuality. I wanted them all in there if they could do a fine job. And believe me, there were plenty of people I rejected as well. But it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing, and it lasted a long while. But I was so proud. I was so proud of what we made, and everyone on it had a heck of a time. And it was really cool to share like the completed pages with everyone later on. But how did I make it? Was the other part of that question. Was I started by reaching out to everyone I'd basically worked with in the past on miscellaneous projects, or people I was already friends with, being like, "Oh, I can't wait to work with you one day." And I was like, "Well, here we go. Here's the thing." And then after that, I started posting online, like not call outs, like help wanted posts. And then when I got to 50, I put out like a little press release on just through the media, on some of the comics media websites, saying like, this project is being made. We have 50 of these people looking for more. And I was very, very lucky because the story was read by people at the Savannah College of Art and Design, as
Oh,
well
dang.
as the Joe Kubert School in my
Oh, heck yeah.
home county of Morris County back in New Jersey. So getting to work with a bunch of those people, whether they were the students or some of the staff members, that was really great. And we
That's
rounded
incredible.
that out. And then the last little bit, it was just me constantly online being like, please, please help me find the last 10. But that was fun. Many sleepless nights, many long nights. But we got it done within, I think, 3 months, and
Holy crap.
it was a lot of hard work. And I was also working behind the scenes, working with editors, like in editing myself. I designed a lot of supplementary material, as well as like working with Buddy, the main letterer on the project, to get everything perfect, and coordinating 100 different people, as well as additional colorists and stuff like that. That's enough to drive you a bit loopy after a while.
That's incredible.
But
Yeah.
hey, if anybody wants an editor, I can do the job. So let them know that. But I pulled it off. I think the end product is great. And then I was very blessed that Zoop wanted to do the campaign and wanted to do the book in general. And we funded in like a day and a half.
Yeah.
So that was also really great. And not only that, but we doubled our goal and then some. So we got to more work for me, because we got to create like a director's commentary. And so I got to write all the additional backup things, kind of like pointing out some of the more obscure references or inspirations behind some of the pages. Because while this is a history book, I do think it's more of like I call it like a springboard book. You hand this to someone who might not know comics and be like, here's like a little run through to help
Yeah.
you get to know it more. Or if you're a longtime fan, it's like, oh, here's something that's just kind of fun to read.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
And then it even got brought back. Was it like for a day or something? Like after the campaign had ended, like it like relaunched on Zoop for like a day or something, or a day or two.
It was brought back for a week as Zoop's San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, so to speak. So they just brought it back to be like, oh, it's here. And I think what better way to celebrate Comic-Con than with a comic book history book?
Oh yeah.
So or a comic book history book. So I was very thankful that they wanted to have that be the like ambassador of Zoop or the Zoop exclusive. So that was a big honor.
No, absolutely. And I think the really interesting thing about the book, kind of like what you were saying, like just, and I think it comes from where it was birthed from. Like you said, it was a birth in a place of like anger and being upset at this and the way that certain things were. And even the start of the book, you talk about like, you know, comics are dying. You have the quote like, you know, comics are dying, and that's a sentiment that's been around for like the last like nearly 100 years, as comics are dying. And they've yet to actually do it. But the book is a really uplifting book if you're a comic book fan. Just to take the steps to go through and see the different stages it's gone through, the different evolutions of comics, the different waves of comics, the different things that have been popular and that have died off, and the Comics Code Authority, and we can't do horror, and we can't do romance books, we can't do westerns, we can't do this, and then coming back to, no, yep, everything's on the table again, and to where we are now, which is essentially this unbelievable place in comics. But it's like, I think I put a tweet out like even a month or two ago, and I was saying it's like, it's literally insane. I can't cover as many comics as I want to. There are so many good comics coming out now. Like, we are literally spoiled for choice. And it's like, but reading the history in Comics Are Dying is like, it's actually very, it leaves you feeling very uplifted. And if you've got a love for the comic book industry, it really does. It makes you happy of like, we're in a good place, you know?
I think it's also just very funny. And not just because I wrote it, but I think a lot of things like this is supposed to be somewhat educational, and I don't think there's any reason why education can't be at least a little fun.
Yeah.
So I think it's all just like a very loving tease at some of the things, because obviously I could not legally reference the characters or have them included, but I could have parody versions of the characters. And I was very, very happy brainstorming some of the characters that could be included, or like coming up with pastiche versions. Like one of my favorites is creating like a Mr. Mind pastiche called Dr. Frog. That one was just funny to me. But yeah, and it was also I remember I told Cross a long time, and not a long time ago, it feels like a long time ago, but that this was like a spiritual successor to Villain Seeking Hero, because this is
the
the
amount of
first.
Villain Seeking Hero pages that were throughout that book was awesome to see them coming back.
It's not even like them really, but it's like, oh, it's like, oh man, I need to come up with like legally distinct superhero and supervillain characters. If only I had a whole universe at my disposal of already, created designs. So, that was really useful. And I find it a little bittersweet that this is like the published work with them in it, but I'm happy that they're out in some shape or form.
Yeah.
It was also very funny to see artist Netho Diaz do like a Jim Lee inspired 90s version of some of the characters.
I need that picture, by the way. See,
Yes.
the Villain Seeking Hero, like X-Men #1,
Heck
like
yeah.
And with Magneto as the dollar sign, it was the best selling of all time.
I seen that in there, and I'm like, I literally need that as a picture. I want that up on my wall. I would absolutely buy that. If that's ever for sale, I will absolutely buy it. It's phenomenal.
There's a few ones that there's another Easter egg. Like I got the rights to Blackout Bombshell back, so when I needed to do like a 60s pop art one, I was like, oh, throw in Detective Jack Atlas in there. So he's the guy for that page. So that was a fun little thing. The only unfortunate thing was I hadn't gotten the Midnight Western Theater rights back until after. Like this was mostly all done, but I would have loved to put an Easter egg of them somewhere in there. But for the most part, every little bit of my creator-owned career is referenced in there.
That's so cool.
I had there's so much fun, like designing the fake ads, like that were in it, because I did like a 90s early 2000s video game ad. I did I did a letters page in the back, which was really fun to write, because I wrote the traditional like, hi, I'm the guy that really loves the comic, followed up by, hi, I'm the guy that really hates the comic. And then like, oh, I noticed this mistake in this one page, and I just want to let you know that it's there. It was just really, it's just so much fun. But what was the other ad? I did like a toy ad with, I got to create a custom Spirit King action figure, and we kind of like made a whole ad inspired by the Superpowers toy line from the 80s. And then obviously like the vintage ads of like the beautiful pet monkey, or like a fantastic mannequin companion, with like a whole little like blurb right next to it. It's like sign here and send 99 cents to get yours today. So it's just it was just such a fun project, and I'm really glad a lot of the people I've met I'm not friends with, and like want to do continued collaborations with, and it was just a really great overall experience. It was my first time crowdfunding too, so I can't ask for anything better than that.
No, absolutely. I think it's awesome to see that it got such a great response as it did. And as you said, it was obviously a crowdfunded project. They're working on putting them together. Is there going to be any way for people to get a hold of this, like afterwards now? Like, obviously, people are just finding out about it, they've missed out. Is there any chance down the line of it being on sale somewhere, or people being able to get it? Or is it just one of those things that if you got to be there, you got to be there?
I've been talking to a few different people about it, but nothing is secure. That's my life is so boring right now. It's just filled with nothing but definite maybes, and I think that is just the nature of the beast sometimes. And if anything, that is the true bane of being a comic book professional in some way. And that's just all the waiting and needing to acquire a good amount of patience, because for every editor that you are dealing with, they are probably dealing with more than 20 people. So it's a whole thing. But yeah, I would hope that there was talk of having it being made as a like a coffee table edition, like a bit oversized,
Yeah.
to really show off some of the art in that. But I cannot say at this point if that will happen. But if it does happen, I'd be very happy. And if it was just this, hey, it was just a nice little. It was a good ride. I will say.
Mm.
And hey, no problem if it becomes a collector's item.
Absolutely. And I think that's it as well. Like, if it becomes just a collector's item, it's like, I hope it gets at least a little bit of renown as a collector's item. But that would be really cool to see if it got to get a further printing. I would definitely get one of the coffee table oversized versions if they become
100%.
available. Just putting that out there.
One thing I just realized is I've been dealing with this for so long, and the campaign was months ago, right? And it's all kind of been over for me. That I like I said, I've never done a crowdfunding thing. I've just realized we've read it, but literally no one else has. So like nobody knows if it's good or not. So I think once it comes out and people, talk about getting their copies and actually having the backers experience the book and being able to talk about it, I think that's when things I might sing a different tune. But yeah, that just screwed with my head, because I'm like, oh, I'm done with that. That came out. That's done. But no,
done with that. It's like, no, not yet.
no, it's done for me, but for everyone else, they're still waiting. Oh yeah, man.
Well, if you
Crazy.
are watching this and you have purchased and picked up comics or dying the comic and are still awaiting your copy of it, I can assure you, you're in for a real treat. It is honestly such a great read. And that's the first time it's kind of hitting me as well. It's like, oh, I've read that. The people that have all like went and purchased and done their stuff in the campaign that haven't read it yet have no idea what we're talking about yet. They'll still experience it, and they're like, oh, that's right, we got to get the digital version early so we could review it. That's right, totally forgot about that.
I'm real keen on that. And I'm real keen to get some copies as well. I can't wait to bring those to conventions. Yeah, it's wild, because you can actually write something like ages ago and then it'll come out whenever. Like to be honest, with the Flash Gordon Quarterly, I wasn't supposed to be in issue 1. I was scheduled to be in issue 2 or 3, right? And because mine had been approved all around, and some of the other stories hadn't, they bumped me up to issue 1.
Nice.
And that completely
awesome.
completely caught me off guard, because I was like, la la la, I love being me, I love my life, and then all of a sudden I'm like, there's nothing to worry about for the next few weeks. I have nothing on my plate. It's going to be smooth sailing from this point onward. And then you just get emails like, congratulations, you've been bumped up to issue 1, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I wasn't mentally prepared for this, and now I have to do a lot of work.
Engage.
Yeah, it's like I have to lock in, because it's like, oh, okay, I now have to promote this book. When's FOC? It's like, you have 1 week, and it's like, that's all the time I need. It's like, let's rock. So yeah, that was fun. I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, but
no,
yeah,
I was going to say, getting bumped up to number 1 for.
You got a ghost in there.
I
Did
think
another fall?
I think that one was my rats.
Oh, okay.
I've got like a rat cage on the floor down here with 2 rats in it, so it's like every so often they jump on each other and it sounds like a tank running through something because they're so fat. Like one
They're
of them is
trying to
massive.
get out so they can take over the world.
Oh yeah, I believe
that
it.
documentary. If that documentary I saw taught me anything.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, I'd believe that. Just the one that usually has that look of like they want to take over the world is usually too fat to get out the door properly. So it's like, as long as he stays at that size, we're safe. We're fine. But yeah, like I'm not happy with all the noise going on in my room behind me. I'm getting haunted.
Here,
But
I'll say this. I'll ask you guys a question. If you've read Comics Are Dying, comic, do you have a favorite little one pager in there?
I have not read it yet, so I have it
Ultimate
up. I
betrayal.
have not. I know.
Ultimate
I'm so
betrayal.
sorry. I'm gonna be honest. I did not even know we had a review copy. So that's on me, though. That's not on anybody. That's on me. I did pull up the Jim Lee homage, and I am loving it, though.
yeah, I was going to say, I think my favorite is that Jim Lee X-Men, because that was the one that I came to, and it's like, I'll be honest, like I don't know if it's because you were our first interview on the podcast. I don't know if it's because Villain Seeking Hero was the first like real comic we properly dove into outside of our realm of norm. But I've got such a love for that series, and it is such a sad thing that it never got the proper love and like release that it deserved. And so to see them on what is probably one of my favorite like Marvel covers ever, that those interconnected Jim Lee covers, those were like my childhood. There's so much nostalgia. That is 100%. That stands out to me. Like that's phenomenal. And I think just anything else with those characters was like, it was so good seeing them.
Yeah.
My personal favorite with the Villain Seeking Hero characters in Comics Are Dying is there is the Secret Wars page is like a toy rack, and the artist drew all like the Secret Wars inspired toys with all the Villain Seeking Hero designs.
Yes.
I was very happy with that one. It was just such a fun comic. The other one I really like as a writer,
oh nice,
there was a pulp fiction like prose story with accompanying art, because in a lot of those like Conan was the inspiration, and Doc Savage, like you'd open up the page and there would be a beautiful illustration and then some paragraphs underneath it, kind of, because a lot of those had accompanying art. So when I was doing the pulp fiction page in reference to both Conan and Doc Savage, I got to write like a whole proper prose thing and stylize the page like that. And I thought that was really cool to do something really different. So it's just a lot. As a writer, it was like really great to experiment. And it was one-page comics are a lot harder and a lot easier in some ways, because you're basically, with this, I was basically making 100 different comic strips.
Yeah.
So it's like, I believe, if anything, this kind of ties back into the Flash Gordon short story, because I had somebody ask me like, what was your like structure making a story so short like that? And it was the same kind of mentality I had with all the one pagers in Comics Are Dying, which is like the way I can only describe it is like a punchline setup. That if you have one page, everything is set up for that last panel. Same with like a short story. Like if you only have 4 pages or 8 pages, you are building up to that kind of crescendo at the end, and you can't really like blow it, so to speak. You have to actually stick the landing or have a significant landing to make everything feel like it was all connecting to something at the end. So luckily, with the Comics Are Dying being pretty humor based, I literally got to do a lot of punchlines for that book. But I still think the thing applies for any kind of. I don't think if you have like 22 pages, you're not really, of course you have to build up to a cliffhanger, but it's not really the same kind of punchiness that you need with something a little bit shorter.
No, and I think the thing as well that, like you said, like the building up for the Comics Are Dying, the comic, is that you've got the 1-page build up to this like last crescendo. But then even as a writer, like you almost like in a lot of those pages removed yourself from it as well, because like there's most of them have just got like a little blurb or a little thing of like, this is what's happening, this is this piece of history, and a bunch of them don't even really have any text happening in them or much dialogue going on. So a lot of it is really relying on the art to tell the story, which is a difficult thing to do. Like, there's comics I've seen that try to let the art speak, and it doesn't always get the point across, and I think it's done very well. Like, you give enough, like, kind of background on what's going on, what the history of it is, but it's usually just a panel or like this one little kind of dialogue box, and it's like, and still making it punchy is a hard thing to do.
Well, I think, if you're doing a celebration with comics, sometimes you just have to let the art do the talking as well. There's plenty of books where there's no dialogue whatsoever or anything like that. Or I even think sometimes some of the more powerful moments in comics can be found just letting the art speak for itself, or letting the characters just act. And with that, there are some where it's just like, yeah, there doesn't really need to be anything to be said because it's all right there. Like a good example is the pandemic page, where I thought the best way to sum it up is just the comic book store that's closed. And like, that's the way to do that. One that does have words, but I think kind of they're not my words, but like sums it all up, is the Steve Ditko page, where it is him sat in his apartment, and there's a quote I read through. I don't know if you guys know this, but when he was still alive, anyone could send a letter to him, and more often than not, he would send a letter back. So there are plenty of like letters. There are plenty of his responses cataloged online, and if you just want some funny reads, like they are very blunt, and they are like very himself, because he was a very eccentric guy. And one of my favorite ones is like, somebody asked him for like, oh, will you sign my book? Like, can I mail my copy of Spider-Man to you, and will you sign it? And then he replies, Dear John, I'm afraid I do not do signatures. I apologize for the inconvenience. Steve Ditko. And then he just signs it. So it's like, you are getting your signature. But one of the, looking into all those, one of the quotes I found was him saying like, dear so-and-so, I'm afraid you'll find that most of our heroes are in decline. And just finding that quote and then attaching it to the idea of just him sat in the same studio that he had his whole life, never really needing their recognition, but also not really ever getting it. He did fight for it a lot. If you look into his feuds with Stan Lee and stuff like that, and some of the semantic arguments they would have, because a lot of legal kind of boils down to just semantics. But like, kind of like, I think out of the Marvel founding fathers, he is the one, despite probably creating the most famous Marvel character, is the one that doesn't get as much credit as Stan Lee or Jack Kirby. So having that quote and then just having him sat by himself, what more do you need to really say? Like, I think that kind of gets it across. Meanwhile, the page that I think is right next to it is called Ozzy Standias, which is just a statue of Stan Lee in the desert, being like, what does he say? Like, Stan Lee is a god, and like, behold behold my works, ye mighty in despair. Because which is a quote that he apparently, when he was in high school, he climbed a ladder with a paint bucket, went to the ceiling, and wrote Stan Lee is a god. And I like this, like, he had a very healthy opinion of himself. And it, like, picking up these things and kind of like having it showcase, like, this is kind of who they were and what they are. Like, there's nothing I could say that'll sum it up better than just seeing like a more artistic or abstract representation of it.
No, absolutely.
That Steve Ditko image is like, it's haunting, because it's just how deep that image goes as far as meaning.
I don't know if you guys read, there was a great article that they did about Steve Ditko, I think in Rolling Stone. And one of the things was talking about, like, overall his whole life, and is saying like, he wasn't like just a complete weirdo recluse. Like, he did spend time with his family a lot, despite not having a family of his own. And one of the things that I thought was the most interesting was, in a lot of his letters, he would refuse. I don't talk about Spider-Man. I don't talk about that work. Talk to me about Mr. A or something like that. And then when he passed away, they were clearing out his office, and apparently, this is how the article ends. There was one drawer in his desk, and they opened it up. His family did, and the entire drawer was just filled with newspaper clippings from each decade, just all about Spider-Man.
Oh,
So
dang.
it's just that little thing of like he could say, "Oh, I don't care," but there
Yeah.
was still that part of him that just kept
It did.
his eye on it. And I
Yeah.
think like he is one of the more tragic figures of comics. But I also that's a double-edged sword because I also think he would not say that. He was entirely himself, and
Yeah.
he just did things his own way,
Yeah.
and for better or worse. But I think there are too many people in comics who are too stubborn. him and Alan Moore are the two that come to mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think it's definitely an industry that's known for its stubborn creators and different things, but yeah, Ditko's definitely one of those ones that you're kind of like it feels like a tragic story, and at the very least, just for like you said, I think the recognition. Like he doesn't get as much praise and recognition as he deserves, especially since he's was co-creator or on one of the most popular characters to this day. One of probably the most popular Marvel character in existence and in pop culture. And it's to not get that praise, it's kind of sad to see that that's the way it
Yeah.
still kind of is. But
Well,
that's the reoccurring thing for a lot of the creators at that time.
no, I wholeheartedly agree. I really don't like how, from personal experience, I could say this from a few of my past employers and just listening to stories of peers. I don't like how the comic book industry can be very predatory, and it can be very cruel. And my advice to any new creator is always to be careful. But I also think sometimes you have to go in bed with the devil if you want to kind of get what you want, because some people you do need to have a credit, and that some of the companies that will give you a credit aren't the people that you should really work with.
Yeah.
But like we joke about it, but the first company I ever worked with was gone within the same year I signed a contract with them, right?
Mhm.
And then like after that, one I legally cannot speak about, but if you research, like there are plenty of people who have said the same things I have said in terms of how unprofessional they are and how they treat their creators and their workers.
Mm.
So like I, from a personal point, I don't wish that on anyone, and I hate to see it, and I even hate to experience it.
Yeah.
But it is a thing. But I think once you know it's there, and once you know, one of the best things I've realized that no matter how not invincible, but how tough they may seem, if they are in the wrong, they are in the wrong, and it'll come out one way or another. And you treat enough people poorly, that'll come out. And
Mhm.
I'm very thankful to see that there's been a bit of a tide shift in that regard.
Yeah.
But conversely, and I'm not saying this because I work with them right now. Everything that I have experienced with Mad Cave Studios has been life changing, because these guys are professional. They are like receptive, and
Mhm.
they most importantly treat everyone they're working with respect. And that I do not say that lightly, because believe it or not, that can be somewhat rare depending who you're working with. So the fact that I am working with them and it just is great. It is a great space for work for hire as well as creator owned. That is a good beacon of light and positivity right now. So very thankful to be working with them.
No.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good stuff about Mad Cave from the creators that work there. You know, all the people involved. Seem like a really, really cool company. They're putting out a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah, and they really are. And even from like our perspective as, you know, basically press and reaching out to them for reviews and stuff, like I've emailed back and forward plenty of times with some of the people in the office there, and I've had nothing but professional like conversations with them, and they seem like they're really up and up company that are creating some really great stuff. So it's really great to hear that behind the scenes with the creators it's exactly the same. And this is not to blow smoke up their ass or anything like that. It's like, because 100% we are not sponsored by Mad Cave or anything like that. We're not on their payroll. If they want,
I am.
you are, but like Comics in the Cross aren't. It's like, if they would like to, I'm up for that discussion. But but so far they have definitely been a very professional company doing some amazing stuff. So that's awesome news to hear. And even just to hear you passionately talking though about, like, you know, creators getting the proper treatment and respect that they deserve, because it's something that isn't done in this business. It's obviously something that is a very big passion of yours and something that's close to your heart.
Yeah.
And even to the point of, you did a video essay on YouTube not too long ago, looking at creators getting that with a long forgotten artist. Wayne Bannister, I believe the name of the creator was.
That's him, yes.
What took you down that rabbit hole? And it was part of, you were researching stuff for Comics Are Dying. Why make a whole kind of video essay on it? And is that just a one-off as well? And is that something we're going to see more of in the future from Louis Southard, the content creator?
Well, with that one, I really like, you know, doing a bunch of research into comic book history. I think there's enough, you know, there's enough to say about all the great things in comics, right? You know, like, oh, this guy came up with this idea and he's a genius, or like, here's this very eccentric thing. But I like the idea of the story of someone who tried as hard as they could and they couldn't really nail it down, because I think there's enough people that could really relate, and there's enough people, whether you're a creative in your own right, just having a dream and feeling like people aren't receiving it well, or like each opportunity you get feels like a step up, but then something happens and it knocks you back down. So seeing that with Wayne, I it's just a story to kind of like highlight that this stuff does happen even today in the comic book industry, which I highlight in the video. And the fact that people could say that, like, I had one guy share it and he said, like, all too common story. And this guy was a comic book artist. And I don't, it's sad that that is a thing. So that was kind of the whole point of that video, to kind of like show a spotlight on the people that don't always get their time in the sun for one reason or another. And I do put at the end of it that if we do find the lost comic book, that will be the continuation of the video. But to be honest, I don't really like doing videos. So like editing is a nightmare. So I don't really feel like I'm going to be doing another one for a hot second, or until we find the book. But overall, it seems to be doing well. I'm happy with it. It was fun to make, but I'm not a natural actor or presenter, so doing like a whole scripted thing, not fun for me. So yeah. But it was, yeah, it's good. It's good. But like I said, I think I just got that chip in my shoulder. You know, just experiencing some of the things in this industry, just really makes me passionate about, like, well, it's like what I was saying about Buddy, and like I really believe in loyalty to some degree. If like somebody really treats, if you can treat someone and have well, and you have a good working relationship for a long time, and you stick by each other, like that's a great thing, and that should be recognized, as well as if they're doing good work, you know?
Yeah.
And I think building those relationships and being sticking up for someone later down the line because they were with you when, when things weren't as great, or like, stuff like that, or just maintaining those relationships. I think that's just a good thing. And like I said, I really believe in, it's a very hard industry to get into.
Yeah.
It was very hard for me to get into, and the fact that I got into it is a miracle, and it wasn't even sunshine and rainbows. So if I can open the door and keep it open for good people, hardworking people, then I think that is a good thing to maintain.
So this is probably a loaded question.
Okay.
But if you were teaching a class, just say you were teaching a comics creation class, outside of the thing that you just said about just making sure that you're watching your back and just watching out for yourself, what's the number one piece of advice you would give someone who's trying to break into the industry, or whether that be an artist or a writer or a letterer or even an editor? What is the one piece of advice that you would give someone? Yeah, I guess that's my question.
I good question. It's always the same answer, and it doesn't really, there's no real specific thing. You could be a writer or artist or whatever. It's all kind of the same mentality, but one piece of advice I give to anyone is, I call it, just send the email, which is like, a lot of the opportunities, or a lot of the great people that I have met over this career thus far, and a lot of the connections have been just because I was either dumb or bold enough to just be like, "Hi, I'm Louis. Good to meet you."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even if it doesn't go anywhere, and that applies to real life as well. If you see someone that you either like to work with or would like to know, you have to introduce yourself. Like,
Yeah.
you're the biggest promoter of yourself and your work. And starting out, like with David Hahn, for instance, when we made Midnight Western Theater, like, he was, comparatively speaking, he was a much larger creator with a large fan base when I just sent him an email asking him to make Midnight Western Theater. But to be honest, like, I just liked his work. I didn't really
Yeah.
know he had a bit of a fan base. I was just like, "Hey, you want to make the Goth Cowboy book with me?" And then he's like, "Yeah, this looks cool. I don't know you, but let's do it." And yeah, it's just like, just random stuff like that. Or one kind of fun thing I like doing is like getting pull quotes, and it was just like, I'm just gonna send it to anyone. And so, like, I remember for Midnight 2, I managed to find the email to Patton Oswalt's agent, and I was like, "Hey, can Patton read this and give me a pull quote?" And then, like, 2 weeks later, they're like, "Here it is." And I was like,
Dude, that's awesome.
"There we go." And then, like, you know, like later on ramifications, like with David Hahn, for instance, he works with the Helioscope collective in Portland. So getting to know him, I got to know more about that, and then I got to work with some of the artists from there.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, what was I going to say? Oh, another good example. I found Mark Wade's email, and then I asked him if he could give me a pull quote for Blackout Bombshell, and he said, "Yeah, I'll do this." And then I was like, "Wait a minute, I'm talking to Mark Wade." So I was like, "Can you answer these? I have all these questions about DC. Can you answer them?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. I love to talk
Dude,
about DC."
that's so
So
wicked.
I asked him a bunch of Shazam questions because Captain Marvel is one of my favorite characters. So he was writing it at the time. So I was like, "Oh, can you do this, or is that legal, or blah blah blah?" And he's like, "No, yes, blah blah blah." So it's like, "Oh, this is really cool." Like, on a
That's
professional
so
level
awesome.
and a fanboy level, it's like, "Oh, this is neat." But because I already had that kind of rapport with
Yeah.
him, when Comics Are Dying popped up as an idea, I was like, "Hey, I think this might be up your alley. Would you be into doing the forward?" Then he's like, "Oh yeah, sure. Like, I'll do it for you." So it was
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah.
it's like I said, like, I think if you just, I don't know if sending an email just, I mean, like, some emails I've sent and I've gotten a job, once I sent a random email and I got a job in like 16 minutes. Like that was it. And like you just kind of have to put yourself out there.
It's about connections,
And
right? It's about
yeah, no, it's
connections. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's connections are one thing, but it's also you can't just know someone. You
Yeah.
also have to like prove your worth, so to speak.
Yeah.
You have to be like, here's why I am a contender, and even if maybe you're not, you have to at least
Yeah.
act like you are.
It's about
Yeah.
promoting
So
yourself. You have to basically sing your own praises and show people how good you are, because no one's going to do it for you a little bit, you know?
conversely, if even with like a big company, it doesn't have to be a big company. If you just want to like jam out with someone, just like, hey, I want to make like a fan comic. Like, do you want to make this with me? Like some people just do it for free. Like,
Mm.
I did the Venture Brothers fan comic and the Miles Morales Spider-Man fan comic with my friend Frederick, and that's just more for fun,
Yeah.
And it's also just kind of like good practice, and it's just nice to work with somebody else. And like I said, it's just maintaining friendships and relationships within the industry. I
Hmm.
think being present, being there, and getting to know enough people, that's never a problem.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
No, absolutely. And
Any other Lewis's greatest industry secrets revealed? I got room for one more.
try to think if there are any other big ones to ask now. We've got in a roll with these. Ooh.
Don't ask
I,
me where ideas come from.
not really, not really a question. I just want to point out I really like because you don't hear this a lot. At least I don't. That's this idea of like loyalty and like bringing other people with you. I think that's just there's something about that. I just feel like that's super cool. You don't hear a lot about that. That's not normal. I should say in today's society, it's all about like what can I get for myself? What can I do? What can I accomplish for myself?
Mhm.
And I just think like I think that that type of attitude is just it's really cool.
Well,
Not
thank
really a
you.
question. But
I appreciate that, but I guess the kind of way I look at it is, I'm not Scott Snyder. I'm not Alan Moore. I'm not a big time creator. I'm just a Lewis, trying his best to make the comics he just wants to make. And the fact that anyone is willing to work with me and give me a shot and want to stick with me for the ride, that's great. And if, like I said, there's some people you'll work with and you won't click,
Mhm.
whether on a personal level or even a professional level or both. Um, but the people that you do click with, they're the people worth, uh, you know, making stuff with. I mean, I think that's the whole point. If you make some, as cliched as it is to say, it's more about the friends you make along the way. And I would much rather make books with friends or make
Mhm.
books with hardworking people that I know can do the job than than just me being assigned to someone or something like that. I'd rather have, because there's a different rhythm to it, and I think there's just that layer of or that level of trust,
Mhm.
and I think I always make sure to try to like go back to the people that I'm like, oh, you're great. I want you to do this, or like I have like a whole like a list of all the creators that I'm like, these are solid. Like anytime I can get to work with them, they're the ones I want to work with. Another one I like. I've mentioned Frederick Hornan a lot. He's a great guy. Um, David Hahn, I always like working with him, and I
Mhm.
get along really great. Butch Mappa, who did Midnight 2, is really great. Sean Peacock, he's like a jack of all trades. He can do anything. Gotten to know him very well, and he's really talented. Alex Moore, Laura Helsby, like there are there's just a lot of people that it's just like Yeah, I'll work with you anytime, and if I can, then yeah, let's do it.
That's
Awesome. I think that's a really cool thing hearing about you when you talk about some of these creators. Is like you're so willing to work with all these different kind of other creatives in the space and willing to sing their praises. And like a lot of these like artists and different people that you mention are, some of them are people I've never heard of before, and some of them are people I've
Mhm.
never seen their stuff. And it's something that's really cool to see you doing, is to like, you are, you know, as much as you're like, you're not a big time comic creator, it's like, well, you've got a little bit of a spotlight on you now, and just the fact that already you're like, I want to shine that on other people,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah,
and want to shine
exactly.
that towards, like, even with like, you know, comics are dying, it's like, hey, I'm going to shine this on 100 artists, mostly because you're a bit insane, but you know, nonetheless, you're shining on a bit on all these artists.
You need to be a little insane to be in the comics world. I think if you want to be artistic in any way, you need a little dose of madness.
Yeah, I would
Um,
100% agree with that. Yeah.
but I guess it's also like, let's be realistic. I am the writer, right? I can't draw. I can't. I can color. I've learned how to color. I can color and I can do a little bit of lettering, but I can't draw. I've tried to draw. I can't do it. So I really do think, there's always that big debate, like, who's more important, the writer or the artist? While I do believe a good story always matters, the artist at the end of the day is bringing it all to life. And if you are just making a script, then you just have words.
Mhm.
And at that point, you might as well just be a novelist.
Yeah.
If you think writing is that important and that great, and you are really good at it, write a novel and it'll show for itself. But if you are making a comic book, you are only one piece of the overall pie. And there are, like I said earlier, there are some books that don't even have words in them, that are comic books that don't have words in them, that are overall generally successes.
Yeah.
So it's, some of it is optional. So the fact that I can work with someone that literally brings my words to life, I place a lot of importance on that, and it also requires a lot of respect and trust onto that person. So yeah, I think they are definitely more essential to making a comic book than just the words alone. So
Mhm.
I think that's kind of where that comes from, because I remember being like a kid wishing I could make a comic book. Like, oh, I'll write a script, and then it's just like, now what? Now what do I do? Like, I don't know how to hire an artist. I don't know how to do this. So it's just like, it really goes to show you what really comes into play. And
Mhm.
I think once you realize that, you don't really want to you don't want to take artists or the other people for granted at all, because, like, what the heck can you do at the end of the
Mhm.
day when making the overall thing? There are some people, and God bless them, they can do everything, and if anything, then they earn the legendary cartoonist status,
Mhm.
and then, like, that's like, that's like recognized importantly in places like France or Belgium or Europe overall, where they're like, "Oh, you're a cartoonist. Well, God bless you. Like, you are fantastic. You are amazing." But if you just do one thing, I've experienced that firsthand, where that's not as impressive. Um,
Mhm.
so it's like, yeah, I think a good, healthy relationship with comics is perspective,
Mhm.
and like, that is very needed. And whenever I do interviews, like with this one, or even written ones, I always make sure to reference the entire team.
Yeah.
I always try to highlight them and their contributions. And if somebody really shines, I always try to spotlight on them and talk about them for a bit,
Mhm.
because there's too many articles and too many things where people make it come across like I did it, and I don't.
Yeah.
I may be showy sometimes, or but I will not ignore the facts at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, like, I would always maintain that kind of level of truth, integrity, and respect to my colleagues.
That's awesome.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I completely respect that. That's it's an awesome thing to see. And like you said, is especially in a business like the comic book industry where like it is such a collaborative thing. Unless you are like the gifted cartoonist that I can write, I can draw, I can do lettering, I can do all of it. It's like you're relying on other people to bring this vision to life, and you as a writer, like if you're not going to rely on that, just go write a book, go write a novel. But respect the people you're working with to bring this very specific medium to life. You need the whole team, and they're all as important. No, absolutely.
I also just think, like I said, I've had enough people treat me terribly at certain publishers for either like standing up for myself or even expressing a different opinion in terms of like approach to like something. I remember one time I got chewed out because I didn't want like one comic book store wanted a specialized variant cover, and they wanted to sexualize one of the. I could say I can't actually. They wanted to sexualize one of the characters from the book, and they're like, oh, they want to order this amount of copies. Well, you have to do here's the cover design. You just have to approve it. And I was like, well, I unfortunately I can't approve it because that character would never be like. And I'm not like prudish. If a character is sexual in nature, then by all means go ahead. But if it's a character that just happens, like for this instance, is a woman character, and then they're like, now we want to create a cover that sexualizes this character simply because they are female. Like, well, that doesn't do right by me. Not in any real like specific way, but it just seems like I don't think the character would ever do this. And so I don't really want to do it. But hey, if they want to change the cover, in any way, I'd happily support it then. And then they're like, "Oh, you're blowing your release. Like, this is terrible. Like, if you say no to this, you're costing us all this, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Well, I'm sorry. Like, I'd rather stay true to my idea of the character as opposed to do this." And but I remember one time I got into a whole snafu with one person who shall not be named, and he basically said at the end of it, it's like, "You'll never work in comics ever again." And it's 2 years after that, and I'm still in comics, so I think I beat him there.
Yeah, it's time to doing okay for yourself.
No, but that's what it is. Like you will encounter bullies, and you will encounter just charlatans. But like it's like for me personally, I just think it's my responsibility not to be like them because I don't want any other creator to feel like how I felt. So that's my little crusade, and we got to bring this mood up. Otherwise, it's just going to be. Doom and gloom forever. What's funny again? Oh, there's a giraffe horse in Flash Gordon Quarterly.
It's a sweet design, by the way. It's a sick design. I love it.
I think the staple of a Louis Southard Western, there needs to be a funky horse.
And it very much is a very funky looking horse. If you want to see it for yourself, you need to make sure to go and pick up Flash Gordon Quarterly so you can see what this horse looks like.
Boom. And that's how you promote.
Boom. Yeah, it all ties back.
That's how we bring it back around to promoting the book from our little downward spiral of the depressing business. We love the comic industry, I promise. It went very dark there for a minute, but we do love this industry.
Hey, anything you love knows the perfect way to drive you insane. I think that goes for anything.
Very true. Very true. Absolutely. But
have we checked Twitter? Has hashtag we want Pyron?
I sent it out. I legitimately sent it out. Mad Cave hasn't. I mean, they're normally quick to respond, but they haven't said anything yet. I will monitor very closely.
I think they're having a conference meeting right now to figure out whether or not they can hit the nuclear option. And
I put in all the hashtags. All the hashtags.
Did you get all of them? Because Lewis gave us quite a few hashtags to use.
All right, I didn't get all of them. I got some of them.
It's because you didn't put a hashtag absolute Pyron. They didn't. They're not going to get it now.
I did
haven't you
Pyron
learned
for president? I know I did that one.
You need to keep up to date. That's DC's whole thing now is absolute. Absolute's the power word right now. We need to make sure to get that in there.
The
Pyron
hierarchy
for president.
is about to change.
All in for Pyron. I mean, I got as many as I could.
I mean, issue 2 of Flash Gordon dropped. I don't know who the big bads they're building toward is quite yet, because we're only at the end of issue 2, but like I think we should start setting up that Pyron's going to be a big thing in the very near future. Like, you know, let's get this big enough we're going to jump out of quarterly and Lewis is going to start co-writing the main Flash book and get Pyron in there. And
I'm just waiting for Jeremy to give me a call.
Yeah, man, any minute now he should be calling you. Any minute now.
Because once he discovers Pyron and knows that I've laid my claim, he'll just be copying me at that point.
Yeah,
so he'll
has
need to bring me on.
It has to get you involved, otherwise he's just stealing it out from under you, and he wouldn't do that to you, so he's going to have to bring you on as a co-writer, you know?
I mean, it's on record now, so I'm just saying.
I mean, that's it. It's here, it's on video now. We can reference it and everything. I'll get a timestamp for it.
I can see the Bleeding Cool article now. Jeremy Adams steals Pyron.
Do you know what the funny thing is? If that happened, there
Just
absolutely would be a Bleeding Cool article on it. 100%. And he's still double checking Nitro's like hashtags that he's got for it. Pyron for president, all in for Pyron. Pyron or burst. Or bust.
See, we got your back, Lewis. We got your back, man.
We're pushing for it. I don't know if anyone else will, but we're definitely pushing for it. Pyron. 100%. That's going to be the title of like this interview. It's just going to be Pyron.
That's just one word.
I got the title for your video right now. It's the Pyron Hour.
The Pyron.
Featuring Louis Southard.
The Pyron Hour. We're officially renaming the whole show now. It's just going to be the Pyron Hour. That's a new interview show.
That's going to be the companion podcast for when you read the book.
Dude, that's going to be it's just us doing a podcast just all about Pyron. Every episode, just Pyron.
Pondering.
We're going to talk about Pyron every episode. Yes,
we are. We're going to make it work.
If I get it, I'm coming back here.
Hey,
100%.
You got a spot. You don't even have to ask. You got a spot.
Well, I was going to say that. I was going to say earlier, like, you're going to have to come back anyway, because you've got a possible project at Mad Cave Studios. You've got to promote the actual books coming out of Comics Are Dying. You've got your other projects are all kind of just simmering in the background and nothing major happening at this minute. So, yeah, once it all kicks off again, we're going to have to bring you back on anyway. So,
and next time you come on, I will have read Comics Are Dying. I promise. That's the number one priority for me. And hopefully we'll get another printing of it, so I can actually have a physical copy. That'd be awesome.
You know, and then we'll get to promote your, Little Mingo spin-off book for Flash Gordon and your Pyron spin-off book for Flash Gordon as well. You know, we'll get to promote it all next time. Absolutely.
Yeah, more unicorn horses, please.
Once I get the 80-page Pyron Giant special, that's when my career will peak. Yeah.
Oh,
do you guys realize how nutso that is? That this is like that could potentially be a legitimate conversation. Could be having.
By the way, it's like if I'm up for it, I like Comics Across. We want a credit somewhere. Like we helped make this happen. We pushed for Pyron.
I will name. I will name 2 lizard men after you too.
Yes.
If that happens.
Yes.
100%. I will take that. I will absolutely take that.
Yes. Dude, that'd be awesome.
That is it's never an interview with you two unless there is a Louis Southard guarantee. So that is the Louis Southard guarantee.
It's like I will absolutely take that. I don't care if it's like one panel they appear in. If we're named after Lizardmen that appear like once in one tiny
100%.
Panel, I will absolutely take that.
You can kill us immediately as well. Just as long as we're in it. Like those horrific deaths.
That was my claim to fame in the comic book industry. I was written in as a character in a Flash Gordon spin-off book for Pyron.
Gosh.
I would actually be okay with that. I'm not going to lie. That would be amazing. All right. We are in a weird circular ramble now about Pyron,
Yeah.
which is not how I thought this episode was going to end. But I think that's a good place to wrap it up. I think I have covered pretty much everything I was looking to, unless you had any other questions, Nitro.
No, I think all my questions got answered.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But again, massive thank you, Louis, for hanging out and talking comics with us. As always, it has been an absolute pleasure, an absolute blast. And
really appreciate it, man.
Again, thank you for sitting up so late to do this interview with us. We greatly appreciate it. And if you are not checking out Flash Gordon Quarterly at this time of watching this, it is out in comic stores. Go to your local comic book store and go and pick it up. I'll also put in the link for digital versions as well for you to link to, and the comic store locator in case you don't know where your local store is, so you can find it and go grab it for yourself. And also as well, I'll put a whole bunch of the hashtags down in the bit below the video, so you can go ahead and get the Pyron hashtags, and we are going to help Louis get his Pyron story. At the very least, we are getting a Pyron story in one of the Flash Gordon Quarterlies. At the very least, that's the very least, if not more. I'm still pushing for the 80-page Pyron annual. We will make it happen. I don't know what is going to be in the book, but we'll make it happen. But Louis, thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Anything else you want to say? Any last stuff you want to mention? Any last stuff you want to push?
Okay. Be sure to buy Flash Gordon Quarterly #1, which is out right now digitally and at your local comic book shop. If they do not have it, feel free to ask them to order more. After that, Comics Are Dying, the comic, should be coming out later this year. You said you missed out on it, but some comic book stores have bought the retailer bundle. Awesome. So there are plenty of shops, I think, only within the US that some in the UK as well, that will be carrying it.
Cool.
And then other than that, everything's a definite maybe. If you want to follow me, if you've enjoyed this this Pyron hour.
And I mean, how could you not have? How could you not have enjoyed it? You know,
if you can follow me at Louis Southard on Instagram and at Louis J Southard on Twitter. You can also Google me; I pop up. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to us ramble, and hopefully we've made some new Pyron fans tonight.
Absolutely. We're pushing Pyron. That's going to be every episode now. We need to get a mention of Pyron, and that's just going to be a thing now.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much for everyone hanging out with us. Make sure as well to go and check the links that we've put for all the other Louis Southard videos, and check out our previous conversations with him, and go enjoy Flash Gordon Quarterly. But for us, that is everything for now. Hope you all have an amazing day, and remember, it's a good week to be a geek. Take care. We'll see you all soon. Peace.
Yep.